Rose FC back for another week, and another week James Dodd alongside me, Adam Peacock, with no Ed Kavalee, who is still trying to get those tariffs down, or something else. James, have you got another theory as to why this guy is just patently avoiding us?
Nah, do you know what? I'm actually running out of things to make up each week now as to where he is. We keep getting messages saying, when's Ed? When's he back on? I did see that there's a new series of Have You Been Paying Attention coming up, so I don't know if he's going to be any good on that, because from what I understand, he hasn't been paying any attention to anything. Certainly hasn't been paying attention to us, but we have got a very special guest with us today.
Maty Ryan joins us today. He's over in northern France. His current club is FC Lens. The former home to Robbie Slater, but of course Maty is a Socceroos mainstay. He's had a fantastic career, played with some fantastic players, and in the last few days has delivered some fantastic news. Dad-to-be, Maty Ryan, congratulations, mate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, mate, over the moon, obviously, from family, friends and all that, you hear and you see how, great an influence obviously becoming a father and becoming parents can be. So super stoked to be about to embark on that journey and start that new chapter with my partner Chloe, and yeah, can't wait.
See, you've bounced around Europe for all these years, mate, and you get to France, you get all romantic, and look what happens. It's great, isn't it?
Probably started in Rome, to be fair. So big cities on the travels. I guess it's helped me get me into this situation. Obviously not getting any younger and whatnot. It's nice to be kicking things off in this regard. And as I said, can't wait to meet the little one when it comes along and kick these things off.
Hey, what's the earliest piece of dad advice that you've already received, given it's been less than 24 hours since you announced it to the world? What have you been told and warned about so far?
Probably from a football sense is to make sure you got the spare room ready for a good night's sleep if need be before a game. So that's probably been the advice. Whether the missus allows that to happen or not is another thing. But that's probably that probably is a common theme that I'm getting from other boys. In that scenario that they've obviously lived that. So see if I can slip that one past the missus.
Do you know, Adam, one thing that you made me laugh about, obviously my little one's 11 months old today, actually. And I remember watching, I think it was the Masters when Scotty Scheffler was about to win, and they were like, oh, don't worry, mate. I think it was another golfer said, you can be the best golfer in the world, mate, but nothing's about to prepare you for sleeping in that single blue chair in the delivery room, so good luck with that, champ.
There you go, Maty.
I that can be a daunting experience, but like many things in life, you meet it head on, and I'm sure it's going to be a great thing.
Knowing you, Maty, you'll be fine, mate. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. And the kid's going to be well loved, and that's the main thing. Let's talk a bit about football then. Lens. So I know it quite well, but I've never been there because the great Robbie Slater has been there, and he ended up having such a good career there. He married, I think it was one of the main businessmen in town's daughter, and ended up with two kids out of the situation. So he enjoyed his time in Lens. And what about you, mate? It's a very, very much a town who loves its football team. How have you found it?
Yeah, man, been really, really enjoying the experience thus far. Obviously, sort of situated there, much more towards Central Europe. My old stomping ground of Bruges, which is actually where I'm filming this from at the minute. A couple of days off and come back to Bruges to show the missus around here and visit some old friends and whatnot. And in terms of obviously its situation, it allows us to do that a little bit more. Obviously, got some experiences playing around the middle northern part of Europe before, and I've visited some great spots. And on the football side of things, obviously, just get back out and play some regular football again. Obviously, the French League hadn't been one that I'd experienced before, but from observing and obviously watching football, being a football fan and all that, it's always been a league that is well regarded in the football world in terms of the level of it. And obviously, my circumstances when I was in Rome, looking at an opportunity to try and get out there in January in search of some more regular football, that opportunity was sort of floating around from the beginning of January. For me, it was the best option I felt that I had at the time. So I was really happy to have got it over the line. But I don't know if you're familiar with how it sort of all eventuated, because they tried to sign Paul Lopez. Initially, he came and did a medical here first and foremost at the club, and had passed the medical. And his current situation is that he's on loan at Girona from Marseille. The whole situation of all with Marseille gave him permission to come to Lens to do the medical and all this, and so that's what he did, and he passed the medical, and it all got announced that he was signing here. But then Girona turned around and said, "Yeah, we gave you permission to go do the medical also, but we didn't give you permission to sign just yet, and we need you here until the end of the January window because we have some important games coming up with the Champions League, and you can't go until then." And then that deal fell through. So a week later, Lons was still then looking for another goalkeeper, and turned out they came in for me. And like I said, just enjoying being back out on the pitch regularly and playing at a real high level again, and enjoying all that comes with that.
So, Matty, on that, what was it like for you on the day when you got that phone call, obviously from your agent? Because I dare say you'd have been looking around at different options, and there probably would have been a few others presented to you. But when you actually got that saying, "Hey, look, this is a situation. It needs to kind of be done now. It needs to be done quickly," were you ready to just jump and ready to go straight away?
Yeah, well, obviously, in the circumstance I was in, as soon as, even in November and December's arriving, you're constantly on the phone to your agent, and conversations, obviously, with my girlfriend and all that. I hope this comes off, or hopefully we get this option or that option. Like I said, Lons was pretty much, the first option that sort of was coming through in the beginning. I remember having a phone call on New Year's Eve with the sporting director, and this was before all this Paul Lopez thing had happened. We sort of knew that they were interested. We had some phone calls, in the build up to New Year's Eve there, and the sporting director finally called me, and sort of when you get to that point where you're talking to the representatives of the club, it's kind of getting quite serious or whatnot. But obviously every club operates a little bit differently, and we were sort of hearing whispers as well that they were talking to other goalkeepers at the same time and all this. And then after that phone call on New Year's Eve, it sort of went quiet a little bit, and that was obviously because I imagine the club had decided to try go down the route of signing Paul Lopez, and then obviously the rest is history with how all that played out. And it was probably another week after that when it sort of came back around again, that the opportunity of them being interested in me, whilst still hearing whispers that they were perhaps looking at other candidates as well. And then, it was just a bit of a patient waiting game. I had a couple of other options that, in my opinion, weren't as good as what the Lons option was, and we were trying to sort of hold out for that. And at the end of the day, it's sort of the deadline. I had sort of two deadlines I needed to give, which, when Lons came back in, I was communicating to them, basically giving them an ultimatum. At the end of the day, they got to decide if they want me or not, and whatnot. And in the end, they decided to come for me. And it can be a little bit of a bit of a roller coaster of an experience, sort of up and down. You think it's going to happen, and it doesn't, and all this type of stuff. And then it's on a knife's edge in terms of what way it goes. At the end of the day, you just got to obviously try to remain calm and believe that things happen for a reason. And if it's meant to be, it will be. And if not, you just adapt and adjust again, and keep rolling with whatever life throws your way. So that's I guess a little bit of an insight as to how it all unfolded.
And it's throwing a few things at you, and it's goalkeeping, isn't it? You want competition, but you don't want to be the number two. You want to be playing all the time. Just a quick quiz here, Matty, just on your languages that you might have picked up through your time in Europe. So you went over there in 2013. Bruges, which is that the Flemish part of Belgium or the French part?
No, it's the Flemish part, yeah.
So you speak Flemish?
Well, at that stage, they were doing all the team meetings and all this in English. So I didn't actually... Okay. I picked up a little bit of the lingo through the boys talking here, little phrases, but it wasn't until probably what you're going to go into when I left and I went to Valencia. That was the first I started to knuckle down on learning a language.
Yeah, we once did a podcast and you started speaking Spanish. I was blown away. That was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. So when you went to Sociedad, you had a grasp of Spanish. Did you pick up Dutch, or did I just speak English there?
Yeah, so like I said, Bruges was here, then it was Valencia where I started to learn Valencia, a year and a half. I continued obviously wanting to keep learning Spanish through speaking to Spanish players when I was playing in England and all that.
Yep.
Sociedad, obviously, to yeah, dust up on the Spanish a little bit more, but they also speak a dialect there.
Oh,
Yeah,
Basque. Yeah.
Basque language. So that was also,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, they all speak Castellano, which is the traditional Spanish, also, but they have their own, yeah, like I said, dialect there, which is completely different.
Roma, did you pick up any Italian there?
Yeah, I took lessons of Dutch, but obviously everyone knows in Holland that they speak quite good English. So I was sort of doing that to pass time and not focus too much on learning it as much. But, I was trying to pick
Yeah.
up. Yeah, then I went to Rome and I was knuckling down on the Italian and learning that. Obviously, it's quite similar to the Spanish. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I was making conversations and all this. Got to a point where, yeah, I could make conversations and all that in Rome before obviously leaving now and coming to France, where now I'm knuckling down on the French as
On
well.
the French.
So, what would you have told young Matthew, who was kicking around at Landon Stadium in Blacktown, that one day I was going to travel the world, and when I come back to Australia one day to live, I'm going to know 4 or 5 languages?
Yeah, I didn't foresee, obviously.
What would your mates from them say?
Yeah.
I mean, Western Sydney languages are no, it's the same. To come away from there, having picked up a few more on my journeys and stuff, I guess it's just a part of me trying to maximize life and the experiences that come with, and I found that not only it's the best way to do that in terms of maximizing the experiences and the journey that you're on, but obviously it's helpful in, yeah, when you're adjusting to a new country, a new culture, earning respect of teammates and official, personnel within the club, and like I said, on a day-to-day basis, just helping you be able to survive and get by and all those types of things. I mean, there's a number of benefits to, I guess, taking that approach, which when I first arrived to Bruges, I didn't realize. I remember arriving there and feeling so inferior to all the people here because, like you said, they spoke Dutch, they spoke a good level of French, and they spoke a good level of English as well. And obviously, me arriving there as a kid growing up from Western Sydney, only speaking, English and whatnot. Yeah, I felt inferior there, and that was where I guess my interest in languages started, and then yeah, I moved on to obviously Valencia, and that's where I wanted to really start trying to yeah, make a go at obviously learning and improving that aspect. Yeah, like I said, I never thought, probably when I left school, I probably thought, I'm never going to ever speak another language in my life and whatnot, and I guess here we are, and it's got many benefits. It's, I guess, at the end of the day, the way I sum it up, it's just cool to be able to speak another language, to communicate.
Mm.
You know, where you're going to use it. I'll go on holidays. You just go on the street sometimes, walking around, wherever, Sydney, Paris, Rome, wherever, and you just hear multiple languages being spoken, and it's actually cool that you can understand. And there's been moments where I've been at airports and people are struggling to communicate, and I help them out, or whatnot, Spanish speaking people trying to speak to someone at the counter in English or something like that, and yeah, it's just little benefits like that, I guess.
Well, sorry, Dozzy, to
Go on.
chime in. My actual superpower that I'd love if I could be bothered to learn a language has probably passed me by. Dodzy can speak Spanish. He can stuff me up here by doing the rest of the pod in Spanish. Is actually hearing someone speak bad of you in another language, and you just turn around in that dialect and say, "Hey, donkey, I can understand you." You might not. So that'd be a pretty cool moment. But yeah, it won't happen anyway.
That was a bit like my Manny Ladder story from a couple of weeks ago, Matt. We won't go into that one. Hey, listen, Matty, you've been all around the world. At least you've kept your Western Sydney twang as well.
Hey.
So just on the aspects of you bouncing around a lot of these different countries and the leagues you've played in, given that you are an Australian that's you're not born and bred in Italy or in Valencia or on the east coast of Spain or in Donosti or wherever you've been, what was it like for you as a first choice, as a goalkeeper in these clubs? Were you mobbed everywhere you went? For Rome, for example, if you were nipping out to get a coffee with your partner or just doing the shopping in a football hotbed like that, were you being mobbed every single time you left the house?
Yeah, I mean, in I guess certain clubs more than others, but yeah, I mean the craze that I experienced being in Valencia, in Roma. I mean, when I was in Arsenal, it was during COVID, but things were sort of starting to slowly open up around London, and if I went into London for the day and all that, just just like you said, the people noticing you and all this, and going out and about. It's on another level. I remember playing in Brighton, and the funny thing was, like, obviously everyone is like EPL fantasy crazy and all this type of stuff, you know. And I remember traveling, national team games with Australia back in Australia or anywhere we go. Everyone sort of stopped recognizing the football component, and they were like, "Oh, you do so well for me on EPL fantasy. You're cheap, and hey, well done. Thanks for that. All these types of things, and
You're cheap.
it was actually quite. I think my first season in Brighton, I think we had managed. Obviously, we got promoted that year. Before I arrived, and first year in the Premier League, and we all know the statistics around teams that get promoted, and obviously players are quite cheap on a fantasy, Premier League type aspect. And I think we had 10 clean sheets, and I think I saved 2 penalties that year in the league, which obviously you get points for as a goalkeeper. And I just remember everywhere I went, everyone was just kept, giving me compliments around that, So, but yeah, like I said, at these big global clubs, when you're playing there and they got, global support around and all this, you kind of, you don't get much respite in that sense when you sort of leave the house and all that type of things. But I've always enjoyed that type of stuff anyway. I sort of take it as recognition as to, I guess, where I've gotten to in my career and playing, getting to that level to be able to, put myself in those situations, I guess, where someone wants a photo or a conversation or a signature or something like that. Obviously, as long as it's obviously done in a respectful way on their behalf as well, they politely ask you instead of just barging in and all these types of things and stuff. Then I don't mind that type of stuff.
Hey, I'll ask a question on my behalf and on behalf of James as well about two players in particular. And you'll know where I'm heading this because I'm a Newcastle fan. James is a Arsenal fan. So you played with some magnificent players so far in your career. There's more to come, of course. But I'll point you towards Real Sociedad and a young Swedish striker who was there at the time named Alexander Isak. And if you could give us a tale about what you saw there that might have suggested that he was going to end up so good. And do the same for James's behalf on Martin Odegaard, who joined a couple of days after you on loan from Real Madrid at Arsenal. And what you saw there. Have you got something on both of those two rather handy footballers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, above all, great people, like great footballers, but even better people, down to earth, humble guys. I'll start with obviously Alex Isak. I remember, arriving there and just the speed that he had, and just the way he brought his whole game together. Like, the only thing maybe that you suggest that he didn't have was, I guess, the physicality in being like big and strong. Like he's tall, he's about 6'2" or 3. But he's obviously quite slim, and I guess I'm just relaying to you now the conversation I had with Dan Ashworth, who called me about him actually before he signed. Dan Ashworth, I worked together with him at Brighton as the technical director, and he obviously went to Newcastle after that. And he sent me a message one day towards the end of the season, or the season might have already finished, and asking me about Alex, and what my opinions of him were. And obviously, I just sung his praises. I remember sometimes just watching Alex on the bench when we were playing games and all this, and like, in a lot of situations where a striker or a player comes short to receive the ball and he had, one or sometimes 2 or 3 defenders, around him, or, one obviously marking him real tight from behind, following him into that pocket that he's dropping into. And you just think, like, 8 or 9 times out of 10 in this scenario, it's almost impossible for a striker or the attacking player to keep the ball, in this type of scenario. And he would just find ways to, like, feel that the defender was getting too tight, and you'd put a little feint on the board to like take it, but like dummy it, and you'd be all of a sudden in behind, and it would happen like that, within a blink of an eye. Or he would receive it and play around the corner ball, or a little flick, or a little turn himself, or simply just lay it off. And there was just so many scenarios I remember getting in, like where he's on the sideline as well, where he's got 2 or 3 defenders coming to him, but he'd just find a way to get out of that situation. And that was a quality where I was like, you don't see that. That doesn't happen. He's a freak in that nature. And then on top of that, his technique around finishing and his calmness and composure and the mentality that he had. I was confident that I just played at Arsenal and obviously had a taste of being around like guys that have won World Cups and all this. You know, obviously I played against them, these sorts of players playing in World Cups and being at Brighton and playing in the Premier League. But when I was there at Arsenal and mixing it with guys, you know, day in, day out on the training pitch, you know, with your Aubameyangs, your Lacazettes, your Williams, your David Luizes, these guys, you see up close and personal, and the next person we'll get to is obviously Martin Odegaard as well. Like they're all special, you know. And then, like I said, from there I went to Real Sociedad after that, and I thought Alex Isak belonged in that same category, you know. And I'm not surprised, you know, since he's gone there to Newcastle and he's doing what he's doing, and now he's getting linked to the clubs that he's getting linked to, and the price tag that's on him, and he could easily be the best striker I think I've ever come across in terms of, you know, a threat. When I think of coming up against him as a player, I mean, I relish the challenge and I would love to take him on and all that, but I think, like, yeah, we've got to be on our game here against him, you know, because as a raw talent, he can hurt from, you know, in any moment on the pitch. You know, he can finish with a header, strong, like being strong in the air with his feet, all this type of stuff, and just his raw pace and all these type of things. I was confident that he was going to be destined for big things, and you know, I'm happy for him that he's going on and doing exactly that. And I arrived pretty much at the same time that Martin arrived to Arsenal, and mate, his first touch, like he'd be getting balls like leathered into him from his own teammates to receive it in the midfield. Again, the ball's bobbling, bouncing around your knee and all this type of stuff, and like other players, let alone being able to control it with 2 or 3 touches, he could easily just play a one-touch pass to someone and kill it. Or his first touch of that ball would be kill it, like as if the ball would almost not leave his foot, you know, with his first touch. And just his flow, his balance, and you know what he saw in terms of his vision and distribution and all these types of things. It was like he was playing the game, you know, in slow motion compared to everyone else in terms of what he was doing, you know. And it almost like he had a pillow for a foot in terms of when he took a touch, the ball just was so soft and caressed there by his feet that, yeah, you stood no chance of being able to sort of pounce on a loose touch or anything like that, you know. And yeah, one of the most technically gifted players in terms of control and technical ability that I played with. Alex was like more raw pace and talent, and you know, get past you and you stay beaten and finish. And Martin was like getting the ball. You know, I played with David Silva at Real Sociedad as well, and very similar. They receive the ball, they're constantly swiveling their hips and moving the ball that you can't get a foot in to tackle them, and you know, they see these passes and find these players with the distribution and the vision that other players are unable to do, you know. That's why they're playing at the clubs that they're playing at, and they're having the careers that they're having, you know. And I mean, I love challenging myself and taking them on in training and in games, that's for sure.
Hey, you haven't even spoken about the best number 9 in Europe, Maty, and that's Mikel Merino, who you played with at Real Sociedad as well. Talking about Arsenal, though, obviously, you know, self-indulgent because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I remember watching you on your debut when you signed, and I remember hearing that, you know, you speak about joining Arsenal, who everyone knows you said was your boyhood club when you were growing up. So what was that kind of whole experience like when you look back on it? And the second part of this question is, did you see then with Mikel Arteta in kind of everything around Arsenal that the way the club has transformed, could you see that happening at the time?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of pinch myself moments in that chapter for sure. I mean, obviously I've been playing in Brighton the whole time, and then in one moment Graham Potter, obviously, in the club decided to take me by surprise and all of a sudden basically tell me that I was no longer wanted, and if I wanted, it would be the best for me in the club if I found an option in January, you know. And they were telling me this just before Christmas, I think it was, and that all came as a surprise, you know, having gone from playing week in, week out, and obviously in that period, taken back by the shock of it all, and then the frustration of it, you know, I guess of all that was going on. When the Arsenal opportunity came about, I was like, everything happens for a reason, you know, and perhaps this is my reason to be able to fulfill a dream of, you know, I mean, how many players can say that they played for the club they grew up, you know, supporting as a kid, you know. And I remember obviously once I had signed and going in and sitting down and doing my first interview, I had a red Arsenal jacket that they gave me to put on for the interview. I remember sitting there looking down at it and being like this isn't real, like this dream, and yeah, obviously so be it. I mean, I've been very fortunate and thankful, and obviously dedicated my whole life to trying to make my dreams come true as often as possible. And this was another moment where it was like more than any other moment. I can just remember thinking like I think I had to pinch myself and be like, is this happening, and whatever, and
James has never been more intrigued by an answer in the history of Rosette in our short history. Keep going, Matty. Sorry.
Probably you are, James. I was myself. I couldn't quite believe that it was happening. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're there and you're mixing it with these players, and you're going out onto the training park and you're arriving and you're wearing the Arsenal badge and all these types of things. Yeah, it was a weight off my shoulders from all the bright stuff, and I feel like I really arrived there, and obviously with that dream having been fulfilled, and it was like a massive exhale that when I got there, I just really wanted to enjoy and make the most of it, and learning little things about mentality along the way. I thought, I can come here, and I'd obviously had 3.5 years of playing against these types of guys and opponents, and thinking that I know when we have a good day we can beat them and we can mix it with them, we can be better than them, and I try to take that same approach with myself, that I'm going to get there, I'm going to enjoy this moment. Yeah, I'm here for a reason, and I feel like I can come here and I can add to the team, and I feel like I can earn some opportunities to play and really mix it with these guys, and so I did. I went on my way in order to try and do that, and taking a little bit each day by mixing it with those players day in, day out, and I look back on it, and some of my fondest memories in my career were created in that period right there. I managed to play 3 Premier League games there. Started off obviously with a loss against Aston Villa in the first game, which obviously was unfortunate, but I was really happy with how I played in that first match. Went on and I think we had a 1-1 draw in Fulham. We played at the Emirates that game, so got a game at home. And I don't know if you remember, but I think my biggest importance in that match was that I went up for a corner in the last minute, and I actually got the flick on that went to the back post. I headed it to the back post, and someone shot. Areola saved it in goal, and Eddie Nketiah tapped it in. And I mean, I never thought preparing for that game that my biggest involvement or my most influential moment day was going to be a flick on from a header. Opposing box. Such is life and such is football, and when that, and then obviously probably the most fondest moment was another visit to St James's Park up there, where I played my 3rd game and kept yet another clean sheet, yet to concede a goal up there, I think in 5 games or something like that at Newcastle. And
no one cares, Matthew. No one cares.
The amount of bragging rights that gives me over someone on this podcast is very, very satisfying. I remember
irrelevant.
A few messages, and all that, and that still spurs me on today. Hopefully, I can get back to St James's Park before the career is up and give it another crack. So,
just a very quick word on
Me too.
Mikel Arteta, Matty. Obviously, he's gone on to do such a ridiculous job, really, given the way the club was when he went in. Did you see that when you went in there, the dealings that you had with him and the way that he was kind of not necessarily always forward thinking, but the way in which he operates as a head coach?
Yeah, so I had arrived, and I think he had arrived maybe only 6 months earlier, I think it was. And it was, I think, the beginning of when he was able to start really having his effect on the club in terms of, I think it was a big clean out that happened that January into the players. I think Mesut Ozil wasn't buying into what he was doing so much. Perhaps, I don't obviously know the details, but, said Kolasinac as well was another one.
Mustafi, I think, was another one maybe at that time.
I think there was I got the sense of that when I was arriving, a few of the conversations with staff members and players around, what was happening and going on and whatnot. But, from the outset, when I arrived, there's probably 3, obviously I've had a lot of coaches and a lot of them have been influential, but there's probably 3 that stand out for me in my career in terms of what I've liked personally, and my Real Sociedad coach, Ange Postecoglou and Mikel Arteta, along with Arnie as well, they've all had big impacts on my career. But the thing they all, share in common is like, when you arrive to the club that they're playing for, they don't, a lot of, I think, players in these situations, you sort of asking questions along, or how much playing time can you guarantee me, and all this type of stuff. And I think all these managers have in common that, like, they give you the answer of not being able to promise you or guarantee you any playing time, but they say that if you earn the right in order to be out on that pitch and get game time through obviously training well and doing everything right around the club, we think that we've been managers that give players opportunities to be able to then, allow them to obviously make the most of the opportunity when it comes along. And the responsibility of the player is to obviously maximise that opportunity and be ready to take it with both hands. That was the conversation with Mikel on the phone before coming, is that he couldn't guarantee any sort of game time of that. And he said that he doesn't have any number one for any position that he has on the pitch. And he thinks that he's showed in his time at the club until now that anyone that deserves to play will play. And I can only say that from my own personal experience, that was exactly how it played out. I mean, the first opportunity I got, I'd actually got a little bit of an injury in my hip, I think a week or two before. And then the team travelled away to Wolverhampton and was watching the game on TV, and Bernd Leno come out and handballed the box and got a red card. And miraculously, my hip made a fast recovery in that. And come the next game, that was opportunity, which was Aston Villa. Like I said, I'd been training well. I tried to manipulate all the training sessions with the boys about, being a match and being ready and being on it and being focused. I think that was, that allowed me to go in and play well that game. And, Byrne came back, I think he only got a 1-game suspension and all that. But I think from what I was doing on the training pitch and training well and then, solidifying that and playing a good game, then the next 2 games that I played against Fulham and Newcastle, I mean, Bernd Leno was fit. He could have played those games, but I think Mikel rewarded me from, my approach and my training levels and whatnot, and he gave me those 2 games. And, there was rumours along the lines that I was going to, be able to play more games and all these types of stuff. I remember I got a bit of food poisoning before one game and I had to miss that. And then... the circumstance, I remember it was being fed back to me that, Byrne, obviously I was on loan at the club at the time and Byrne had another year to run on his contract. There was a couple of times where they said, if it was only based on football performance, that I would probably play this game. If they were to take Byrne out at that time, it could cause a problem in the dressing room and for next season and all these ramifications that would come of it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get more games than that. Yeah, I mean, his evolution... Sorry, I was sort of going away from the question.
That's all good.
Just, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you have obviously scenarios where players are on big money and they've been signed as a star player and all these types of things. Mikel, he just goes about picking what he feels is best for the day, and it's almost irrelevant all those other details around players within a team. If he believes you're good enough to play, and you're the right man for the job, then he has no hesitation about putting you in. He will obviously make sure with his team of staff that you have all the information and all the tactical understanding and knowledge and all these types of stuff to be able to perform or help you perform at your best. And then as a player, it's your responsibility to go out and do that job for him. And, the players that do that, the most successfully, are the players that play more regularly and all these types of things. And his tactical understanding, and it was almost like he wanted to play PlayStation with all the players, like wanting them to do this, do that, move here, move there, play this pass, have this mentality to play forward, all these types of things that really set him apart in the belief that he had in himself in order to create a winning environment, not being too close and too friendly with the players in the playing environment, wanting to obviously be the boss there, and obviously he has to make the tough decisions. And you see time and time again some managers wanting to get too close and be too friendly with players and all these types of stuff. And I think it allows an emotional connection and, everything that comes from that. Players that know that they're going to play regularly are going to perhaps, relax a little bit too much and then not perhaps get their full potential and play to their highest ability. And on the contrary, players that aren't playing regularly and perhaps don't feel that they're going to get opportunities to play are going to switch off and, get angry and get upset and do all these types of things. but his messages of saying that there's no number one, and obviously rotating the squad based on players training well and doing well, it just had that competitiveness there and that level there and those standards there that you need in order to create a successful environment. And fingers crossed that's going to lead to a Champions League title for them this season and a Premier League title, and hopefully many more of them. As long as he's there at the helm at Arsenal.
It's a bloody good insight, actually. Yeah, like aside from that fascinating insight to football, I just got a little bit off topic one, but of all the clubs, apart from Lons now, which everything is perfect for you, what club that you've been to has the best training ground canteen? And I know you're very particular about what you put in your body, and you don't know the meaning of the word trans fat. But what joint has like, whoa, this is 3-hat Michelin star type areas here?
Well, on a whole, facility wise and all this type of stuff, like turning up somewhere like to work, and you really think how fortunate you are to be, turning up there was Brighton's facilities.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like the stadium was only a few years old and the training ground a few years old when I joined. And obviously, like state of the art, modern, and all this. I mean, Arsenal is obviously Arsenal, but they've had the same training ground for quite a while and just sort of refurbished it. So there's a touch of still the antiqueness a little bit from being. I think it's 20 odd years old now, and they've just refurbished it and all that a few times. But in terms of facility wise, Brighton, yeah. And after I left, they actually extended and built more to it. So. Unfortunately, didn't get to see you and indulging in what they built. That, like, I think they built an extra gym. They built these hydrotherapy rooms and all these types of stuff that they had going on there and whatnot. But for me, that stands out in terms of personnel. In terms of having people at the top of their trade and the networking side of things. I mean, nothing's been bigger than Arsenal for me. I signed there. That the day I signed, I think I got like 50,000 extra followers on Instagram and all these types of things just from signing there and all this type of stuff. And just like you say, you go out somewhere and people noticing you everywhere. And if you need something done, they've got a contact to do this, a contact to do that. In that regard, that was just a whole other beast. Discovering all that, being part of. I would have loved to have played a game for the club with fans because there was no fans there, but playing for the club I grew up, dreaming to play for and following and all that. I'm not picky, of course. I'll take what I had in that sense, and who knows, maybe get another opportunity one day or not. You never know. In terms of the canteen, Adam, to answer your question, I think it's got to be Real Sociedad, the Donosti, San Sebastian. I think it's. If it's still the case, I think it's the city with the most Michelin star restaurants in the world in terms of the vicinity of it. And
okay.
The facilities of the club weren't as grand as what I experienced. They actually refurbished just as I left as well, and it improved a lot in that regard. But the chef himself, the stuff that he used to whip up and whatnot for us, after training and for breakfast and all these types of things, just exotic foods that you would not think to even try or whatnot, and just the flavors that he combined and all this type of stuff. They really know how to cook decent meals in that part of the world. I tell you. So that would definitely have to be the winner. The Real Sociedad chef Johnny is his name.
Seems like there's a bit of a current theme here. It sounds like when they get you off the wage bill, mate, they're able to start building out their canteen a bit more. All these clubs. Hey, listen, Adam, I know you're desperate to.
I was going to say, in that regard, I think I'm a small fish compared to the other players.
Yes. I know you're desperate to get us onto some Socceroos. Lead us off, my friend.
Yeah, Maty. So Popper comes in and feels like a bit of a custard pie. He's opened things up. Joe Gauci gets a bit of a run, but then the last couple of match days, you come back in. I've got to compliment you here, despite your sledge about Mr. Clean Sheet at St James's Park. So happy for you. But those involvements that you had in those two matches, crucial. So this could act as a little bit of a coaching manual stuff for kids who think that they should be in the team and they're dropped, about how to deal with it. How did you deal with that? And then obviously you're always proud to play for your country, so you get that opportunity, making the most of it. Talk us about the psychological evaluation you had to do for yourself to get yourself right and over the fact that someone else was between the sticks for the Socceroos.
Yeah, well, just on that sledge, you get what you give, Adam. I know you know that all the so, I much prefer to let my football do the talking, So,
Fair.
someone can take that away from me at the minute. I'll hold on to that for as long as added bonus that it's yourself that I get to dictate that to you. Everyone in life is very similar to football life. We all face hardship and tough times. That was no doubt another tough period for me, a tough challenge that I faced, and I'm with where things currently stand. I'm proud of myself with, I guess, how I handled and managed the situation and continue to manage it until now, because I think in that scenario it could have gone another way in terms of spiraling into a situation perhaps that maybe I would not come back from in that scenario. And at the end of the day, I think having the approach that no one is entitled is a good way to go about it. I'm not above anybody. I don't believe that. Obviously, I've got self-belief that I'm the best man for the job in whichever club that I'm playing at. I feel if you don't have self-belief, and I've learned that the hard way also, if I'm doubting myself that I'm good enough to play or the right man to play, that creates other obstacles in allowing me to play at my best level and all that, for the team and for myself and all this. I always continue to believe that I'm the best man for the job and that I can do the job. Manager is obviously another person that, he makes decisions based on what he feels is right for the team. Sometimes that's not always going to be, myself to play and all that. And I guess that was a scenario that I found myself in with the national team. And of course, you try and find the answers as to why, and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I just tried to manage it as best I could and try to remain calm and keep that belief in myself that that's the case. Like I said, I've been in a scenario where I've probably kicked up a stink and been a little bit more immature and young and been a little bit more disappointed and frustrated and emotional about a situation where I'm not playing and all that. And I've learned that that's never really served me well. And taking the approach of where you try and work hard and you do what you've been doing in your career to be able to have the success that you've had, and tapping into that sort of skill set is what's going to help make the most of the situation for me, or at least help me overcome the circumstance that I was in. And that's what I tried to do. Obviously, I didn't play those first couple of games for the national team, and as much as that hurt, and there was obviously a few thoughts that potentially I may have played my last game for the national team and all that. You never know. You never know how it can play out. But like I said, I tried to stick to my guns. I tried to stay positive in regards of, believing that my best days are still ahead of me, trying to support the team. I think for a successful environment, every player needs to put the team first and not an individual. Like I said, the responsibility on the player. If they want to play, you got to go out and show that you're the best man to play. And when you get the opportunity to play, you need to continue to show on a daily basis and every match that you play and every training session that you're the best man for the job. And that's the only way to go about it. And I just tried to go out there and do that. And obviously playing regularly, it helps in that regard as well. And so that's how I sort of tried to approach the situation there. And ultimately, when I go out there, I try and do the best for my country. I've had periods where I've not been playing regularly, and I feel like I've still done well in the national team. And I've had periods where I've played regularly, and obviously still try and do the best I can with my national team. At the end of the day, there's a little bit to it where it can all be irrelevant as long as you're on the pitch and you're doing the job and you're playing well. I guess that's the approach that I just tried to take with it all. And like I said, I'm proud because it could have easily, and I've seen it go, the wrong way for other players where perhaps it could have been the end of their international career or their career at a club or whatnot. But I'm pretty proud with where things have gotten to now on this progression. But I know at the same point that it can easily change again. So just trying to, keep this positive momentum that I've managed to find again at the minute and keep running with that.
Mate, I've got some listener questions to run through in just a second, but just the final one on goalkeeping. Apart from the Muppet that you shared a dressing with in Copenhagen, if you're the goalkeeper at the other end, right, and you see what happened to the Chinese goalkeeper during that game where he made the mistake and let one in, I know goalkeepers are a tight union, but how do you feel when you're at the other end and you see that happen? Is there a sense of you that goes, I don't really feel sorry for him, he's the opposition on this one?
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing you feel, because the most defining thing for me is my competitiveness and my will and want to win. So something like that happens. It's like not a good one, but it's well, thank you very much. We take a step towards winning the game, and that's the most important thing. But of course, the keepers union is there, and we all understand. And that's the way it goes sometimes in football. Unfortunately for us, as we all know, it can be a cutthroat position and whatnot. There's a reason why we choose to be goalkeepers. Through all the highs and lows, you can't be too high or too low emotionally. I think it's a good attribute as a goalkeeper to be level-headed through everything because, as we know, life and football can quickly change in that regard. So I'm very obviously thankful for that moment in that game, because it helped us go on to get the result that we were obviously after and take another step towards qualifying.
Spoken like a true national team captain. Hey, listen, I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Who wants to get back into China?
So, Nick Collins said, you can do these quick fire answers, mate. Is it an ambition to play in all the top 5 leagues in Europe? So I think you've ticked off Spain, Italy, France, the UK.
Yeah,
Bundesliga. St. Pauli next. Agent Jackson Irvine on the case.
Mate, if the opportunity come up, definitely look into it, But it's funny. It's been a common joke question from other people around. Even my girlfriend, my missus, said, where are we off to next year? But it's definitely not been a goal. My journey is being the journey that it is for whatever reason, and I'm just trying to embrace it and ride with it. So if it's Germany, so be it. It's a great level and whatnot. But hopefully I can find some stability and not move around too much too frequently in the near future.
MZ3939 says, will he ever come back to the A-League before he retires?
I mean, you never say never. It's obviously something that's very close to me. I still continue to follow all the time. I mean, I've still got that hunger and desire to want to play at the highest level, and perhaps I probably always will, knowing myself, I think. But you never say never. It's obviously I love Australian football and what it's provided for me and whatnot. And who knows if there's going to be a swan song in the future? I wouldn't rule it out for sure.
John Turner asks, is Exmouth the most underrated holiday destination in Australia? See Matty's Instagram.
Honestly, I speak with my girlfriend all the time. That year we started off in Exmouth and went over to obviously Europe afterwards, going to Greece and Ibiza and all these types of things. And we often say that the Exmouth part was the best part of it, to be honest. To have all that in our own backyard, I mean, what we experienced there, we got very fortunate in. We did obviously the whale shark swimming. We saw manta rays as well. We saw humpback whales jumping. My girlfriend, obviously, she's from Perth. She knows a friend that works up that way. We took out a jet ski and we came across dolphins one day. We had everything on that trip, all that you could want. And it's definitely a highlight. I'd recommend 100% anyone that's contemplating or wanting to do a trip in Australia to go and do that Exmouth trip for sure.
Anywhere in the world where Matty doesn't have to put a T-shirt on, he's a fan of. So,
got to show the rig off. Hey, Curtis asks, being from Blacktown, was it conflicting facing the Wanderers in the 2013 Grand Final with all the buzz surrounding the area where you grew up?
Not really, to be honest, because that competitiveness side of me took over, and I just wanted to win. Win, and obviously that was for the Central Coast Mariners. So they were obviously arch rivals at that time, and especially after missing the penalty in the season to then lose top spot in the minor premiership, I think 4 games before the end of the season, the motivation to knock them off in the grand final was even more so. So I'm glad we were able to do that.
Last but not least, Adam Federici asks, can I have your golf clubs now that you have a baby on the way and you won't need them?
That's funny. Funny he says that. I've got to ask. He seems to be enjoying quite a lot of the golf still. I've got to ask him what his secret is. But nah, my girlfriend, she's very understanding, and she allows me to, spend my free time how I wish to. It's been a while since I've actually taken them out to play. Unfortunately, all the moving around and whatnot, a few cobwebs on them, but. I'm still keeping them for myself. I wouldn't want to give him an extra advantage to beat me. So Adam knows all about that as well. So
having heard Matthew describe his competitiveness and having heard Matthew describe him being involved with golf, one image comes in my head, and that is possibly the most competitive person I've ever seen on a golf course. It was quite the experience.
Yeah, I remember. I know there's been quite a few times where you try to have a stab with a few little words or whatnot to me, and I give you crickets back because I'm in the zone or I'm frustrated at something. So,
There's an internal war going on.
But I think the last game we took the chocolates. I think we beat you. I think was it down 17 and 18? I clutched birdie and par to finish. I think, and we did you. So another
must have been part of your visualization sessions, Matthew, because I can't remember that. So
active memory you have, huh?
yeah, exactly. Mate, we've taken way too long of your time when you're meant to be showing your lovely partner around a previous stomping ground. So we'll let you go and continue that. Really appreciate the chat, mate, and good luck with Lawns, making a legendary status for yourself there, like the Red Baron did all those years ago, Robbie Slater, and look forward to seeing you again in Socceroos colours soon.
No worries. Appreciate the chat, guys, and hope to catch you all soon.
Thanks, Matty. Congratulations again.
Cheers, Jan. Cheers, lads. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Nice. Guys, what I'll do is I'll hit stop